Welcome. Thank you for joining me. Grayboardgamer here for round number 3 of our Cannibal Island scenario in Robinson Crusoe. Let's take a look at our current situation before we start the round. Our camp is currently here and we still don't have a shelter. We did manage to take out the first cannibal village, so that is taken care of, so we can gather resources on either one of those tiles if necessary. And also, I want to explore towards the east to get closer to the city of the cannibals, but also to expose more of the cannibal villages that we can take care of. And if we can burn those down, it'll also better our chances against the city of the cannibals. Again, we still have no shelter. Our weapon level is at 3. We have several inventions that we've been able to make. We have the rope, the pot, the shovel, and the pit. We can work on the lantern as soon as we find the fire, so we need to find some mountains, because with this fire and this knife, that'll also improve our situation. We can work on the shield if we want to, since we have the rope, and that'll give us another token for hunting, or for taking a hunting action against one of the cannibal villages. If I had any fur, which I may get because I might have to hunt to get enough food, we might be able to make the sack. That way when we gather resources at one location, we would get double from it. Our group of castaways is doing okay. Our explorer is the most wounded, but also I would probably take a few more chances with her in this round because she is a lot further away from an arrow if she does take a wound or two that would decrease our morale. The cook, the soldier, and the carpenter are all right up against that arrow, so one more wound for each of those would cause our morale to decrease quick. So we either have to heal them or try and get that shelter built, because if we can't, all of them are going to go to the other side of that arrow and our morale is going to plummet. We could make the shortcut, which will help us with food, because with the shortcut, and I've mentioned it before, is if we can make that, we can put the shortcut marker on a tile adjacent to our camp. That way, during the production phase, we can get one chosen resource available on that tile. Plus, if any of these character-specific inventions are made, they're going to get 2 determination tokens for making it. And we do have the rope, so we're definitely going to have to go after the snare, because it'll give us 1 additional food on the tile with our camp, and even if we move the camp, that token moves with us. So that would be very helpful in the future for gathering food at the beginning of each round during the production phase. Also, when we explore, no matter what, we're going to have to draw 1 of these cards because the token is on there. We have a beast in the hunt deck, so we can hunt for food, hopefully. Maybe we'll actually get a fur too. And we do have only 1 card in the threat area, so we're not worried about any of those leaving in this round. But before we put any kind of plan into action, we have to start by drawing a card here in the event phase. And we have Night Howling. A terrifying howl came from the jungle all night long. Then there's that token next to the hunting deck. This is the greater danger token that we have to put next to the hunt deck, and that means that the strength of the beast the next time we hunt is increased by 1. And we have also run across our first book symbol, and this is going to probably be pretty painful. Here on the Cannibal Island scenario card, we see that that book symbol means the attack of the cannibals happens. Each player will get 3 minus X wounds, where X equals the number of burnt down cannibal villages. So we've burnt down 1, so every character will take 2 wounds. And here is where things get really bad really fast. Each of our characters must take 2 wounds. That means the cook will cross the arrow. The carpenter will cross the arrow, and the soldier will cross the arrow, causing the morale to lower 3 times. That attack has caused our morale to plummet all the way down to the -3 determination token spot. And the pain continues. Additionally, players have to move their camp to an adjacent tile or lose their shelter. Or each player gets 2 wounds. Well, I can move the shelter, so I'm not going to get the 2 wounds for not moving it. Or maybe I don't want to move it and take the 2 wounds because not having a shelter means I take wounds also, and that's specific to the scenario. Let me check the rulebook first. I think I have it figured out because we have 2 ores in here, so these are the options. We have to move their camp to an adjacent tile. So if I move my camp to an adjacent tile, I don't have to do either one of these ores. So if I was not able to move my camp, like if it was early in the game and the only tile was the beach and something with a cannibal village on it and I couldn't move to it, then I would have to go to the ore and I would lose my shelter to reset down to 0. Or if I couldn't lose my shelter because I haven't built one, then each player gets 2 wounds. So I think in this case that I can move my camp to a different tile, which means I do that and then that just stops right there. I don't have to keep going on to those other ores. Those only come into play if I was unable to move my camp. And to save from taking 2 wounds, I'm going to move my camp. And I have a choice. I can go back to the beach or I can go up into the hills. If I go up into the hills, that kind of locks me into where I can only explore 1 tile. If I go to the beach, I'm locked in and can only explore 1 tile. Not any of these are good. If I go back here, I'll gain a wood and a food. If I go here, I'll gain a wood. Wow, not good choices. I think in this case, at this time, I'm going to move back to the beach, which is going to hinder my exploration. We are only on round 3, so I have time, and at the end of the night, I can choose to move my camp so I can come back over here, hopefully setting me up for future exploration in a later turn, as long as we don't draw another card with a book symbol. But we're going to move our camp back to there for now. We fulfilled all the needs on our event card, and now it's going to move down to the threat area. And we're going to have to, if we want to get rid of it, we'd have to have at least a weapon level 2 and assign 1 person to it. And then they would be able to discard it and get a determination token. If we let it leave the edge of the board, our palisades would lose a level from the beasts attacking it. So the cold rain will move over to the left and the night howling will go in its place. If another card were to come down here and there was 2 cards already here, the one furthest to the left would come off, and then we would have to deal with whatever the consequence is for not taking care of that threat card. The event phase is over, and now we move into the extremely painful morale phase. And as we saw happen earlier, we are down at -3 to our morale, which means the first player, the cook in this case, needs to discard 3 determination tokens. Sadly, the cook has no determination tokens, so that's 3 times she had a request that she can't fill. So she was going to have to take 3 wounds. And we crossed another arrow, but in this case the morale cannot go any lower than -3. So we're already as sad and destitute as we can get, and we can't get any worse. Our situation is a lot worse now. We got a lot of wounds and really bad morale. I'm afraid we're going to have to take care of a lot of that during this round. Otherwise, we put ourselves in a position where just a few bad cards or even 1 bad card, like another Another attack of the cannibals would definitely kill off one of our characters. But right now we're in the production phase, and since we moved back to the beach tile, we're going to gain 1 wood and 1 food. And in the production phase, what we gain goes directly to the bottom, and we can use it right away. And that will move us into our action phase, or the first part of it, where we're going to assign pawns out. But before we assign the pawns out, we're going to go ahead and use this scenario specific marker, this X, which represents the map of the island. Because if we're only going to be able to explore one tile easily, we could explore further, but that would waste a lot of our pawns. We want to use that map because the map of the island allows us to look at the top 3 island tiles and put them back in any order. So we can choose the one we want on top. Let's see what our choices are. We have another plain or grassland, which has a cannibal village on it. We have another plain or grassland, wood, a beast, 2 tokens. That first one had 1 token, and wood and food. Too bad it's going to go in a spot that's no closer to the city of the cannibals. And our last option is a river. We still have not found a mountain, and we won't for a while unless something allows us to reshuffle these. The river will give us a wood and a food, is also a cannibal village, and gives us 1 token. So now I have to look at these, 2 of which contain a cannibal village, 1 does not, and decide what order to put them back in. The order I've decided to put them back is I'm going to put this one so it comes up next. That way we have access to the river, and we get another village that comes up right away, because I want another village to come up so I can attack it soon. And that way, with 2 villages that are taken out, that'll really bring that number down in case the attack of the cannibals comes up again. Then we'll be able to only have to worry about taking 1 wound each. So that one will come up next. And then I'm going to go ahead and put another of the villages down. And then finally on the bottom, which would come up third. Yeah, that way I can get a couple of the villages out of the way quickly. We'll put them back in that order, face down like this, on top of our tiles, so we know that that one's coming up next. And with the river, we would have access to the map and the dam both, as far as inventions that we could possibly create. The dam takes a wood to create, but it gives us 2 perishable or non-perishable foods that we can keep in reserve if we need to. And the map would give us an exploration token that we can use each turn to help us explore further out. So those are both quite useful. The map is what I really want to go for first, because that's going to get us a little further, a little easier, especially with the dog available. We could use the map, the dog, and only 1 character token and explore more than 1 space away from our current camp location. We know we want to explore. We do have the flask of rum still, where we could gain 1 health back. We can use that at a later time. And we do have the Bible that'll help us recover some and gain some more determination tokens. I'm going to have the explorer go with the dog to explore this adjacent space to our camp. We know what's going to come up. The explorer is only 3 wounds away from dying, so I'll have her go with, oh wait a minute, because we're going to have to draw a card. I'll have somebody else go with the dog. Let's see, the cook is 5 away, the soldier is 6, and the carpenter is 7. So we'll let the carpenter go with the dog. That way if she gets hurt, because she's going to have to draw one of those cards, she's the furthest away from dying. We also definitely want to get this rope, and I'm not this rope, use the rope to get the snare and get the shortcut. I'll have the carpenter work on her snare. I could have the explorer work on the shortcut, but again, she's close to dying. I could have somebody help her, that way it would be automatic, but we also have a lot of healing and morale to take care of too. And we only have one food available, which means we should probably hunt and maybe gather resources also. We only have one location to gather food. Wow, some tough choices here. I'll have the explorer put one of her pawns on the organizing the camp action. That way we can make sure we get one of her health back and get her a couple of determination tokens in the process. And I do want to work on that shortcut. Let's work on that shortcut with her, and it's going to leave us with 4 tokens to choose what we want to do next. Like I said, I want to hunt. If I hunt, I have to send 2 people. Gather resources, I would have to take a chance. And then we also had that shield available to work on. For those of you that were screaming at the video telling me I forgot something, I just realized that the pit is already made, so I should roll the brown wound die, and if I get a wound symbol on it, I'll gain 2 food, which will help me conserve some of these tokens. I wouldn't have to worry about but gathering some food, so I wouldn't have to hunt this round and risk damaging my weapon, because I'm going to want to attack this village that's going to appear in the next turn. In this case, I grabbed the wrong die. Here we go. Now I got the right die. We have a 4 out of 6 chance, and finally in this case we do want a wound symbol to appear, have some food, or a creature fall into our pit and give us 2 more food during the production phase. And we got it. That is a tremendous help. Getting us 2 more food during that production phase means if we can gather at least 1 more food, we won't have to worry about taking any wounds from not eating. I do still have to take some chances though when it comes to my remaining actions. So I'll take the soldier since he's a couple wounds away from his next arrow, and I'll have him gather resources on this adjacent tile to try and get that 1 food for us. I do have to deal with these threat actions too, because if this one leaves next turn, I'm going to have to put the rain cloud on. I'm going to have to deal with it. So I'm going to put somebody here because we do have the shovel. And our cook, we can put her on there. She'll get a determination token from that, and it's risk-free as far as not having to worry about taking another wound. We still have 2 tokens left, 1 for the cook, 1 for the soldier. I do need to get this morale better though. I need to bring that morale up some. Again, I'll take the cook and put her on an action here. That way she's less likely to have any kind of wounds occur. And that should get us at least 2 morale back. Unless something else happens, it magically improves it for us. But we have the soldier with 1 token left, and we have to decide what we want to do with that. I'm having a difficult time deciding what to do with my soldier's last action. I've been debating whether or not to add it to the carpenter here to ensure that we get that additional food token to have at our camp for the rest of the game, or do I want him to gather or arrange the camp too to try and get that morale back up to 0, because the first player is going to be explorer next time, and at best we're going to be at -1 unless she gets enough determination tokens to do her motivational speech. So she's going to take a wound from not being able to discard. Well, she will have determination tokens though if she's successful. Okay, so I'm going to have the soldier Can't build a shelter, so I'm going to have to suffer from that again. Alright, I'm going to have the soldier help the carpenter. That way food won't be a problem for us in most cases anymore. We start our second part of the action phase here with the threat action, and the cook was able to use the shovel to make some irrigation and discard this card and get a determination token. So that irrigation will help us funnel the water around the camp so we won't have a flooding issue. She gets her determination token, so she has one now. Next we move over to the hunt actions. We have no one here, we have no village to burn down, and now we go to our building action, which we have the snare and the shortcut. We'll start with the snare because it's going to be successful. The carpenter and the soldier teamed up. We now have our snare, and by doing so we get that +1 food token that goes on the tile with our camp. So every time at the beginning of the day during our production phase, we will get an additional food. And we are happy to find another food source near our camp, and that's going to really help us out. I've changed my mind. I'm not going to have the explorer do the shortcut. I'm going to have the explorer assist the cook on gathering resources to ensure we have food. We'll worry about the shortcut in a later turn. Now, I don't think there's anything left that I was trying to build. No. Now we'll go on to the gathering resources. And we have 2 tokens there. So that will be successful and give us another food to our future resources. Next we will explore here. And our carpenter was taking the lead on that. And we already know what tile we're going to get. And it's our river tile. And we're going to see our second village now. And we can get 1 resource token. Put that down. Let me grab the second village token. We have found our second cannibal village just to the southeast of our camp, and there are some consequences that come along with that. Wow, well that's terrible. The player who explored it gets a wound. Cannibals raid your camp. If possible, discard 1 wood or 1 food. Well, the poor carpenter thought it was going to be an easy action.
Ouch!
But she takes 1 wound. I don't want to give up a food, so we're going to hide that from the raiding cannibals and let them steal 1 of our wood. Also, almost forgot, when I made that snare successfully, the carpenter should have got 2 determination tokens. But she's not out of the woods yet, or out of the river. She didn't go into the woods. She does have to draw a card no matter what. And she is lost. It's getting dark. You lose your way to the camp. At the beginning of the next day, you come back and everyone's happy to see you alive. Execute the night phase outside the camp. At the beginning of the next round, before the event phase, increase the morale by 1. Also, we have a discovery token, which, it's going to be a treasure. And that'll be our first chance to draw 1 of the mystery cards. But this is actually going to go on her character card instead of the future resources, because it says any resources gathered, discovery tokens during the action which you spent the night outside of camp, put them on your character sheet instead of the future resources space. These materials and their effects, if any, until the end of the round are only available to her. And also when you're spending the night outside of camp, any weather effects that were to come up, would not affect you, but you are outside of camp spending the night under the sky, so you're going to take a wound. She's going to take a wound anyway because we don't have a shelter, so that's not a terrible burden, but it could be if you do have a shelter built already and your character was on the brink of death. But another problem she's going to deal with, or have to deal with, is food. She's spending the night outside of camp, so the food that's in the camp is not available to her. Only if she had any food on her character card from a action that she had done before she spent the night outside would allow her to eat. So she's going to actually suffer 3 wounds, which is going to be very devastating to her morale and her also, because she's going to take a wound for being outside and 2 for not being able to eat. Also, one of the viewers pointed out that anytime an invention is made, it should go into the future resources, and then when it comes down to the available resources at the end of the action phase, then it's available and goes into place. We're done with our action phase, so our resources become available for food and the wood, and the snare would go to the carpenter, and she made that before she was lost, so it's not with her, it's at the camp. And we have both the explorer and the cook arranging camp. And now I have to decide who to use our final Bible token on, and whether or not I want to improve morale, or if I just want to I think our explorer is going to die. And I don't think, yeah, there is something I can do about it because I have the flask of rum also. But maybe I don't want to improve morale because I know the morale is going to drop when the cook crosses the arrow. The carpenter is going to cross it twice. So I'm going to go all the way back down to 3. So I'm not even going to bother increasing morale. I'm going to have each, the explorer and the cook, take 2 determination tokens instead of improving morale, and that'll give the explorer a total of 2, and the cook now has a total of 3. And I spoke incorrectly. The action phase isn't over yet, so the snare and that food should still be up there. I'm not going to use either one of them before the end of the action phase, before we go to the weather phase, so I'm just going to leave them in place, but know that the action phase was not over yet. I should have waited until I got past the rest action here. Now I've gained the determination tokens and I want to use the Bible. I'm going to use the final token on the Bible to gain another determination token and heal a wound on the explorer. She will gain a 3rd determination token and will back that wound marker down 1. The Bible has no more uses left and will be discarded. Now the action phase is over, and our snare would have moved down and that food would have moved down also. Next we would move into weather phase, which we don't have any tokens to deal with and no dice to roll. And now we'll move into the night phase where we have to eat food, but only 3 of us are in camp, so only 3 food will get consumed. We have 1 food left that the carpenter cannot eat because she is not with us. So I'm going to take it, and I'm going to spend 2 of the cook's determination tokens to do Grandma's recipe, which says I can discard 2 determination tokens and heal 2 wounds by eating 1 food. And I want to go ahead and use it up because I can't use it for anybody else right now, and it's just going to go away because it's a perishable food item. And now it says you can do either heal 2 wounds on a character or 1 wound on 2 different characters. So I'm going to heal 1 wound on the explorer, and I'm going to heal actually 1 wound on the cook. And now, when we take the wounds for being outside the shelter, it's not going to push us over any arrows right now. Not that it matters because our morale is really low. But it puts the explorer 3 away from an arrow. The soldier's already 2 away. That puts us in a little better situation. Plus, we had to use that food anyway. The carpenter doesn't have anything with her to eat, so she's going to take 2 wounds. The carpenter did cross an arrow, but the morale cannot go any lower. Everybody, including the carpenter, is sleeping outside of a shelter. So everybody will take another wound.
Ouch!
And now we can choose to move our camp if we want to. Actually, I would have moved it before I took the wounds in case there was a natural shelter we were moving into. And I forgot to mention that. I already took the wounds, and if I move the camp, where would I want to be? If I move here, I'm guaranteed a couple of food just from that tile, but then I lose the wood. And if I stay here, I won't have the ability to explore anywhere else without using 3 pawns. You can explore 1 further as long as there's a tile that's already been explored between your camp and the unexplored location, but it takes 2 or 3 pawns. 2, you'd still have to roll the dice, 3 to be automatically successful. And I don't want to waste that many pawns, so we will move our camp back to where we initially had it, now that the cannibals have cleared out, and we do get to take the additional food token with us. That was a rough round. Everybody got hurt pretty bad. We do have the carpenter returning, though, at the beginning of the next round, which will raise our morale 1. And then I could probably do the motivational speech also if I discard 3 tokens. That'll move the morale up another level. We could just be at -1, but that would leave her without a token, and she would take 1 wound. Which I think that might be the better option. Let her take 1 wound and get the morale a little closer to that middle mark. I'll probably do that. I could do that now at the end of the round because these powers can be used at any time. But I don't know what's going to come up on that event card before the morale phase, because that could lower the morale. I think I'll wait. I'll wait till after our event phase, and between the event phase and the morale phase, then I'll spend the tokens to raise the morale. And hopefully it doesn't lower it, because the carpenter coming back is going to bring up our morale a little bit too. The first player token will pass to the explorer, and I have nowhere to really put it. I'll put it off to the side here. Well, you can kind of see it in frame still. I'll take this token off of Grandma's recipe. We will move to number 4 in our round. And because we've moved to round 4, at the beginning of round 4 before the event phase, we will turn over the City of Cannibals tile, which will have another of the idol or tiki symbols on it. So that's going to be tough for determining the strength now of the village that we're going to attack. It's going to give it 2 levels, making it a 6 instead of a 5. I was hoping for a 5 and only taking a couple of wounds, but we'll have to deal with it. And we do have to, well, we don't have to attack it, but I think it's necessary to keep another of those book symbols from just laying waste to us. I think that's everything. I think we're ready to move into round number 4. Our token's moved, our first player marker has moved. There's no more black markers on any player powers. I think we're ready to go. So, again, thank you for joining me for round 3 of Cannibal Island. Take a moment, check out the other videos. If you like what you see, consider supporting the channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Take a moment to leave some comments. I like hearing from everybody. I've already had several corrections to help me make sure that the playthrough is right, so please comment. And as always, your support is appreciated, and I'll see you for round 4 when we reveal the city of cannibals.